So this is my About Me page. A little bit about me. My name is Robyn Ellis. I was born in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Well, actually technically Williamstown, but hey, let's not go into too much detail. And I grew up in the western suburbs of Melbourne, and it was a regular childhood. Happy family of 4, living in the suburbs, outer suburbs of Melbourne, out west, in between Melbourne and Geelong. It was a happy childhood, and yes, I became a foreign exchange student and I went to Wisconsin in the US in 1993-94 with the AFS exchange program. So I've ended up with a global family there and friends and all that kind of thing, and it got me going on the travel bug. I'd never really been out of Australia until I took my flight to Los Angeles in 1993. It was my first aeroplane ride at the age of 17. And yeah, very exciting times after a childhood in the 80s and 90s of driving holidays up the coast and around Australia, not right around Australia, but just up the coast. It was pretty awesome to hop in a plane and fly all that way on my own with other kids and become a foreign exchange student. Gave me a thirst for knowing more about the world and travel. And so when I came back, I was actually at university at that time, and I, ended up giving up university, which was to become a teacher and studying arts and education. I was majoring in journalism. I wanted to work in the media, but I didn't end up feeling that was a resonant thing for me, studying and all that kind of thing. So I ended up working as a checkout chick at the local shops and studying travel consultancy. So I did the travel consultant thing back in 1995. And once I got through that full-time course, it was really difficult for me to find a job, and I think I lost a bit of confidence in myself there. So I ended up working in retail for a good 8 years, full-time, going through management training and working through the ranks there in the grocery store area. But then Sydney Olympics happened in 2000, and I had been on a trip in 1999 back to the USA and Kentucky and all that fun, loving stuff. I decided, right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to see if I can become a flight attendant, because my host sister in the US was a flight attendant and she'd inspired me, and I thought, well, if she can do it, why don't I give it a shot? And I tried and failed, did courses, and eventually took about 9 months of grooming myself and learning the ropes and going through interviews and getting rejected and going through interviews and getting rejected and going to interviews and finally getting the job, that I became a casual flight attendant with Ansett. And if you're Australian, you know what happened to Ansett in 2001. It went belly up, like a lot of the airlines unfortunately are doing now with what's happening with the pandemic. So I did that for 14 months, best job of my life. Ended up having to go back to work in retail. And after that, and during that, I bought my first home on my own with a bit of help from my parents and got out on my own finally. So I had 5 jobs at one point. I was working 5 jobs at once. Very intense time. And getting out on my own and living on my own, having people come and share house in my house. Still single, but dating different guys. Not successfully, obviously, at the time. And I became a swimming instructor. I worked at the Westpac Bank as a teller. I worked in a furniture store. I went back and worked at Woolworths. I was helping my dad work in a restaurant. Ended up doing Tupperware sales and trying to be a Tupperware lady. Met my first housemate doing that. It was just lots of stuff going on. Really busy life in my 20s. And throughout my 20s, I had moments where I would be sick. I'd get tonsillitis really bad. Never had my tonsils out though. And really unwell. But then I'd be okay. And tired at times. But who wouldn't be if you were juggling 5 jobs and trying to have a social life at the same time as a 20-something? And then I met my husband. I met him in my late 20s. I think I would have been nearly 29 years of age. And things sort of shifted gears then. At the time, I was working back in retail again, managing a furniture store's homewares department in the city of Melbourne. And bless him, Craig, and through a friend, got us to have a flight across Melbourne in a Learjet over the MCG during the 2006 Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, and proposed to me to get married. And 1 year later, we got married in 2007. And not long after that, I was diagnosed with MS, probably about 6 months later. What happened was my legs went numb. And in the journey leading up to that, 6 months after marriage in 2007, I'd had a job where in retail management where I had had symptoms again, and anyone that's following me and looking at this and has MS diagnosis would understand. And this arm had gone numb totally. I was having anxiety attacks, feeling low moods, dropping things. And in the end, that job, I walked out upset, emotional. It drove me down to a bottom, into a hole that I'd never been in before. And after that, I was so lucky to get a job in a fitness club and then get married, because we were still engaged in that time frame. This was all in a year leading up to getting married. Big stressful events happened. Got a new job working in a fitness club, managing people cancelling their memberships and club operations, helping with that a little bit. And my legs went numb. I'd been jogging on a treadmill. That morning, I'd been getting fit and losing weight and doing like really cool workouts with one of the personal trainers as part of the management team within this club. And my legs were numb. It was like pins and needles. Stand up, I can't feel my feet. They're not waking up. So I went to the doctor. The doctor sent me for an MRI. I think in that instant, the MRI machine broke that day and I had to come back another time. It dragged out, this whole diagnosis bit dragged out for a good 4 months. 2-3 MRIs later, or MRI appointments later, conduction tests, pinpricks. Just before Christmas 2007, in the doctor's office, it's MS. And I was relieved because I'd been told it potentially could have been a tumour on my spine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what if it's a tumour on the spine? This is a good 3 or 4 months of thinking that in your head, waiting for the answers. And I totally feel for those of you who have gone through this and it's been a lot longer than that. My goodness, my heart goes out. So that Christmas was a whirlwind, blurry. We'd put our hand up to host our first Christmas at my house. Newlyweds, 2007. Hot summer's day. In the backyard, setting up the table. It was like I don't know how you host Christmas. But then I was in a state of grief. I also had a friend at the time who was going through really, it was a dire cancer diagnosis. And so I spent a lot of time with her, but talking and stuff and about grief and that whole feeling of how it feels. And it didn't sink into me at the time, to be honest. It only sinks in now. How many years down the track? 13 years down the track, writing my memoirs last year, that was grief. I was going through a deep grief for my life as I thought it was going to be. Age 32, newly married. What do you do? So here we are. We're at December 2007. You have MS. I went down the road of, okay, all right, I need to find what medication is going to work for me. I wanted to have kids, but I wasn't sure if I was going to now because got this MS. People at the gym would come in and they were in bad states, not, going so well with their MS. I didn't know what I didn't know then. And if I knew, the first few years would have been a hell of a lot different. And that's why I'm here doing this now. And that's why my book will get written at some point and finished so you can read it. But I'm putting it into a bit of a video here for you guys so you can see, in summary, some of the key points, moments of why I'm here today as Robyn, inspired Robyn healer, doing Reiki healings and helping you with your lifestyle choices. I went down the road of Copaxone. So by January, I was learning to inject Copaxone into me. And what a fun experience that is. I lasted 14 months, my first round. In that 14 months, I travelled for 10 weeks overseas with my husband. The following Christmas, 2008-9, we took a world trip because I ended up changing jobs again to get a job that wasn't in a gym that I was facing every day. That reality that I'm not going to be doing boxing and kickboxing and running around the block and doing all that high impact stuff that I was starting to enjoy at the gym before diagnosis. So I went and started meditating. I started doing Qigong for a while at an alternative therapist place, not realizing why I was drawn to the alternative therapist place. And we went around the world for 10 weeks with 10 weeks worth of Copaxone injections in a cooler bag with cool packs and a letter from the doctor. We started off in the USA, went to Las Vegas, did a bit of Vegas, went to Florida, drove up the East Coast. We watched a shuttle launch or whatever in Florida as well on our way up the East Coast, visiting family and friends along the East Coast, the Appalachian area, so the Carolinas and Virginia, Washington, D.C., and we ended up in New York City, and Craig and I did a bit of New York, and I was totally wrecked by the time I got to New York. 3 days in New York, and such a big, wonderful, vibrant city, and I was tired and headachy and migrainey and having to sit on the double-decker bus or the ferry going around just listening to the commentary because I was so not with it. And then we flew to Germany, Christmas markets in Germany. Worst flight ever in my entire life before kids. Hot burning feet, couldn't cool down. You know what it's like with MS. I was heat intolerant back then. Loved the Christmas markets in Germany. Just a really quick stopover on our way to South Africa, which is where my husband was from. And then we went and did summer in the Kruger Park, and we went to Port Elizabeth to visit friends and people that my hubby knew down there as well. We spent Christmas with my in-laws, and it was a beautiful time, a really poignant time to just shift gears and know what I really wanted next phase of my life and our life together as husband and wife. And so when we got home, I decided it was time to stop injections. Copaxone was going and we were going to start having a baby. I had to get rid of antidepressants and injections. Not an easy task, but we did it. And we got pregnant fairly quickly. So that was a blessing in disguise. And now my daughter is 10. I went back on those injections. I fought it. I really struggled with the energy when it was breastfeeding time. We ended up going to South Africa again in 2010 when she was a baby, just 5 months old. Because my hubby got a new job and was sent over there for work. So we put 2 and 2 together and went again. And it was great. And then by the time I got back and she was nearly 6 months old, it was time to get back on the Copaxone, and the grief again, the grief. And for me, grief was being in loud markets or parties and not being able to concentrate or focus. It was like, if you're a Charlie Brown fan, you know the teacher in Charlie Brown, and they're sitting in the classroom and it's like, rah, 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 rah. That's how it felt. And I'm noticing the light's going bad here. So apologies for the dark video. That was grief, and I had a lot of dark times when she was small, even though it was such a beautiful time. I was loving being a mum to a baby. Other than the sleep deprivation and the tiredness, I just loved doting on her and doing everything in my power for her. But I had to stop feeding her, and I mixed fed, and it was heartbreaking. So I want you to know, and there's nothing wrong with it. I didn't want to take, and I know others breastfeed now. Back in 10 years ago, no one knew what Copaxone could or couldn't do to harm somebody. And I played on this side of caution, and I chose not to have the medication and feed her the medication. I didn't want her having any of that chemical if she didn't need it. So I went down that Copaxone road. Another 14 months I lasted. And this time it was worse than the first. By the end of that 14 months, I was getting injection site welts. I was injecting into my belly, and it was just backfiring and hurting me, and the scarring, and I couldn't inject into the leg because it hurt too much. And the other beautiful thing that happened was that I tried a new thing called CCSVI, chronic cerebral spinal venous insufficiency. Had the jugular veins checked, and I had venoplasties done, and opened up the veins in my neck, and it gave me hope again. So those tears left, and that feeling of maybe I can let Copaxone go came for me. I started to go to the gym again. I started to do 12-week body transformations, and I started to clean up my diet. Who would have thought getting rid of a lot of processed foods would help? And it does. First step 1. Clean up your diet, eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. Portion controlled. And do that. Unfortunately, I didn't do it quite enough. I ended up going down. I gave up the Copaxone without the approval of my neurologist. But I had a great result from my MRI after I did that. After I had CCSVI, and then I got the result and I stopped the Copaxone. It was great. However, down the track, there was still moods, there was still dark times, there was still a little bit of naughty food. But then I came to a business opportunity that did personal development, and I started working on this. The 6 inches between the ears, the mindset. And there was a book in my drawer. You'll all know the book. Well, I haven't got it here. Overcoming MS, but the first original version, which was called something else, Taking Control of MS. I had been given it when I was first diagnosed in 2007 and signed up to the MS Australia Society, Victoria and New South Wales, and ACT. And I read 8 pages and I couldn't face it then. I could not face it then. And that's why I'm here again, reminding you, it's a journey. But if you see this and you can hear it from me, who went the hard road, the long road, the blocked road, maybe listening to me will wake you up. And if that does happen, I'm so grateful. So I went down that road and of mindset, and working from home, trying to find a way to stay at home with my child, conserve my energy for her, be free, be able to have my own lifestyle support network of my own hours, and working for myself. Wasn't easy and wasn't successful for a long time in the respect of building an income. However, it was successful in shifting my mindset and shifting how I was living my life. I went down the CCSVI road this many more times. Each time felt relief. Each time it came back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over the space of about 4 years. 5th time. This one's working. This one we can't fix. It's gone. So, wake up call. Came again. Boom. What do? I'm not going back on medications, please, no. I'm going to read Overcoming MS. I was speaking to someone on the phone, showing her the business opportunity that I had with the mindset stuff, with the personal development. And she told me she'd been to the retreat, and she told me how much it had changed her life. However, she was going down the stem cell that one, the stem cell route. And so I went to the retreat. I read the book. I booked the retreat the next day, $2,000 or whatever it was to go for a week. Boom, I'm going in November 2015, and I'm reading this book, and I'm stopping eating dairy, and I'm cutting back on the meat. Started feeling better. What I'm not telling you is that I'd already started changing some things by quitting sugar for a year before that. And the quitting sugar thing, well, didn't seem to work for me. I had a lot of coconut oil, a lot of butter, and, so still a lot of high fats in my diet at that point in time. So even though I'd quit sugar, I was living like keto, paleo, whatever you want to call it, high fat lifestyle. And it wasn't improving my symptoms at all, really. But I tried it for a year, and I was ready for the next thing. Overcoming MS. Dairy, first thing to go. Tick number 2, as a winner. Let go of dairy if you can. Whatever you can do, let go of dairy. It was a game changer for me. And it's hard to not have ice cream as you know it ever again, or eat brie at a party. However, it helps. By the time I got to that retreat in November 2015, I burnt in the fire that I would never have meat or dairy again. And I've only ever accidentally had it in things when I didn't know it was hidden in the food. And oh, boy, does my body tell me. Boy, does my body tell me. But boy, does it help. The high-dose vitamin D, flaxseed oil, and the cutting back on saturated fats, cutting out dairy and meat, it was a godsend. And then, next thing we know, we decide we're going to move to Queensland and change our life and go on our own way, living in the sun. And also, what I haven't mentioned, CCSVI helped me with my heat intolerance. So I lost the heat intolerance and gained cold intolerance. So Queensland, perfect place for me. It's cold this year still though. I'm filming this in winter, 2020. So, yeah. Next step, Queensland. Overcoming MS lifestyle. Starts in full swing. Now we're back. We're at 5 years down the track to today. And I can tell you that has been the biggest game changer out of this whole thing. And why did I leave that book in the drawer and not want to face it? I don't know. I don't know. But a couple of years ago, I met someone who introduced me to medical medium. A couple of years before that, I bumped into someone who had introduced me to medical medium, and I took a photo of that book, the one that I showed you earlier. Maybe that one. Another version of Overcoming MS that got left and not looked at for a couple of years, but not as bad as 8 years. This book, if you haven't read it, borrow it from the library if you have to. Read it. Read the chapter about, if you're watching this and you've got MS, whatever chronic illness you're diagnosed with, be it Lyme, be it PMS, be it depression, be it PTSD, be it ADHD, autism, be it shingle, oh no, it's not really it, migraines, type 2 diabetes, hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, Epstein-Barr virus, big key. You'll learn about it all in this book. Beginning of my next phase of my journey, which coincided with meeting Natalie Ubel-Grant of Light of Wellness, and then reaching out to her 1 year after meeting her about Reiki and energy healing. After going to different types of modalities and people here on the Sunshine Coast that work with energy, I found Reiki to be the thing that was my calling, and it started to wake me up to the ability to heal the body yourself. Medical medium is also spiritual type of healing. It's not science-based like overcoming MS. It is spirit-based. Spirit has tapped into what's going on and given us advice on how we can help ourselves and the things that we should avoid and the things that we should bring in. Very similar to overcoming MS, but there's some differences. So combining the two together works really well. Combining the three together is a powerhouse, and that's why I'm here. So 2018, I did Reiki Level 1. 2019, Reiki Level 2. Reiki Level 1 woke me up to energy healing and what it can do for me, and it let me play with energy healing on myself. I was always called to work distance work. I felt like anytime I was in a forum on Facebook and I could help somebody, I wanted to help, but there needs to be an exchange. There needs to be permission. There needs to be a want, like reading those books and wanting to change for it to work. So then I bring in Reiki Level 2. It allowed me to clear energy at home and work with people via distance. And then eventually I have an accident not too long ago this year, just before the pandemic really broke out, right at the cusp of that, or just after, was it? I can't remember. Anyway, it was recently, and I hurt myself, and it woke me up and brought me to the attention of Reiki Master Level 3, which allows me to fast track a lot of the healing that I was already doing with different parts of it. It also allows me to deep dive into other energy fields within the body and the energy field of the person that I'm working with, and is a powerhouse. And it's also helping me to hear my guides a lot clearer than I was before. So know that you're in good hands when you reach out to me and my spiritual angelic guidance team. We are working together consistently a lot more than we have been, and we're ready to help more people get on this path to healing. And the three things together, overcoming MS, medical medium, and energy healing through Reiki with me, are a powerhouse to be reckoned with. And I want to be able to help you. If I can help shortcut you and your journey to healing from the 13 years it's taken me to get to this point where I'm really confident in what I'm doing and how I'm approaching my life and my lifestyle and my healing journey, then I would love to help you do that too. If you trust in me and you feel a resonance for working with me, then know that I'm here for you. I'm only a message away or an email away, and I can help. We can have a conversation, and I can help you get on this path a lot quicker and get clear on what it is that you want to be doing and need to be healing to help you move forward and heal your life. It's a heal your life soul healing journey. Check out my Reiki and coaching if that's what's in it for you. And if you're following me and you're watching my story and you don't have that chronic illness diagnosis just yet, but you have anxiety or you have stress or you have niggles and pains and aches, I can still help you too. Check out my Reiki healing sessions, especially the blissful sleep one. That may be something that can be of benefit for you. I'm here to help as many as I can. So reach out to me. And if I am not able to help you, I know a bunch of people in this field that may be more suitable. So yeah, that's my story so far. More detail will be in that book that I'm still writing, coming soon to a bookshelf near you, or coming maybe in the next year or whatever. So bye for now.